So, good welcome and big round of applause for Michel Martone. Here it is. Hi, Michel. How are you going? How are you going?
Great, thanks.
I just, you entered that door and came up in my mind a story. Can I tell it in 30 seconds?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Right. He doesn't know anything about that, but you have to know. All right, I will tell it. I don't know, is it very... Okay, I tell it anyway. I remember once I was organizing an event, and I've been invited Michel. And I remember the audience was full and it was a great event, and I thought, gosh, a lot of people interested in our topic. I don't know, we were talking about Dillinger.
It was Dillinger.
Independent publishing platform that you were running. And before Michel, they were talking a music band, okay? Zero Assoluto. Anyone knows Zero Assoluto? All right, and they finished talk. They just say, okay, we go away, and I see half of the audience, they just stand up and go away. And I thought, gosh, so embarrassing with Michel. But you see, today, this is my revenge. This is, amazing, amazing crowd, amazing place.
I'm not that sure that was a nice presentation, but anyway, thank you so much. I mean, don't leave. Most of all, first of all, thank you to everyone, because it's really important to have here in Rome the TechCrunch. It's really important because it's really about growth, about new ideas, about, to be brave enough and come back to growth. I'm sorry, and I ask you sorry. I beg your pardon if I'm going to read, but now I'm vice minister and I have to take care of what I say and what I read. So, I was very impressed recently by the ideas and theories of Greg Horowitz, which he had an occasion to share a few months ago here in Rome. I particularly cherish the metaphor of the rainforest when he was talking about the Silicon Valley. It was going like this: the big companies are the trees, venture capitalists, the money, the irrigation waters, and the flow of ideas, the chlorophyll. This image takes me back to an idea that I've long considered crucial since I began my research work on the future trends of the Italian labor market. I think that the Italian situation can be summarized, and I think that every one of you, know it, by this one sentence. During many years, unfortunately, we have been sacrificing opportunities on the altar of rights. All rights have a cost, and now we know it after this crisis. And for a long time, in order to afford those rights with those costs, we have accumulated the third world biggest public debt. And through it, we have sacrificed opportunities. What we really need now in Italy is to have opportunities. What we are working for is opportunities. Italy is traditionally a country of entrepreneurs, of people who bet on arts and craft. The Made in Italy, which is really so strong still in this moment all around the world. And we are people who enjoy challenges. This was the case in the 80s when, if you remember, after years of crisis and social unrest, advanced services and the fashion industry became flourishing sectors that gave new drive to our economy. As the time went by, however, an environment that used to be favorable to private initiative, just like a field, slowly got depleted and degraded. Our younger generations inherited a soil which is hard to cultivate because it is dry and does not allow new shoots, new companies to sprout, as if a poisonous substance were affecting it, through a huge public debt generated in many cases by measure of public funding and waste of resources. Previous generations abused an enormous richness to the detriment of new generation. And in order to pay out those debts, I was writing many years ago, politicians were forced to increase the tax burden, and you know it so well. Everyone who works in Italy knows it so well, and reduce public services. So the precious humus of what once was an enormous potential for richness got lost because of tax burden, because of bureaucracy. Several veto players, I used to write in other times that this used to be the country where everyone is smart enough to veto someone else's action, but no one is smart enough to act. State pervasiveness, and this list could continue so much, and you know it so well. Like those big trees that have never been pruned and have no oxygen, our economy needs pruning so that the new sprout can grow. Giving oxygen to the economy and getting rid of weeds is precisely what this government has aimed to achieve through all the reforms that we have adopted so far. In particular, I wish to mention two main packages of measures. The first one is the in-depth spending review to prioritize expenditure items in favor of growth, to fund the money to help the startup and the job creation for young people. And for the first time in our history, the central state has avoided further tax increases, in this case the planned 2% VAT increase, which did not take place, by rationalizing its expenditure, thereby giving oxygen to the private sector and to citizens in general. And then an extensive package designed to free up markets and increase competition. We call it the liberalization packages, the opening hours, liberalizing opening hours for shops, simplifying requirements for business creation in general, disregards authorizations, licenses, controls, and by young people as a priority, simplified limited companies, reforming free professions, and liberalizing fuel distribution networks and other measures concerning the energy sector. And overall, by making Italy reliable again through the severe austerity measures that were taken, we gained trust on the side of our European partners and managed to redirect the European agenda toward growth, along with partners such as France. But unfortunately, there is still one major gap that Italy needs to fill, along with many European partners, and this regards the ICT sector and the acquisition of better e-skills. If the use of internet were as widespread as in France or in the Netherlands, employment levels would increase strongly. Overall employment would increase by 186,000 people, and by 270,000 people if internet was as widespread as in the Netherlands. Youth employment would increase, in this case, by 96,000 people and 141,000, respectively. On the contrary, we report that the 73.3% of corporate using lower than 10 megabyte connection speed, despite the fact that 9 companies out of 10 use broad and ultra broadband. 62.6% of companies have a website, yet only 35% of these sites offer at least one service with full user interaction. E-commerce is used only by 3 companies on 10, with only 5.4% of products and services sold online, thereby achieving just 5% of overall sales. The gap between small and big companies in terms of ICT-related activities is still huge, over 30 percentage points. The whole EU is currently experiencing a considerable lack of ICT skilled staff. The lack of skilled operators by 2015 is estimated around 700,000 workers, and since 2005, there has been a constant decrease in the number of ICT graduates, while 90% of job vacancies will require ICT skills. ICT skills is a precondition for employability. ICT skills allow to get a job via the web and to increase productivity. But what we have to do is to work on the ecosystem. What this government has tried to do is to work on the ecosystem. I strongly believe that in this moment, the state authorities should do less and better. They should encourage a favorable environment by simplifying legislation, loosening over regulation, fighting against tax evasion and undeclared work, thereby encouraging those who go by the rules, like you want to do with the startup, shifting the tax burden away from the factor of production onto property. As I mentioned earlier, liberalization are a great stimulus and an opportunity. Sectors like the so-called free profession, just to name one, can greatly contribute to giving new drive to our economy and to job creation. It is part of the agenda of the government for the months to come to bring to full implementation the set of measures undertaken to liberalize markets. And as you know, and I'm sure Minister Passera said this morning, In a short time, we will adopt, I hope very soon, we will adopt new measures to boost startup and the digital agenda and labor market and young employability. And as President Monti said recently, digital economy is also a key element to overcome territorial imbalances, and ICT evolution is imperative for all, regardless of age. Sure, more needs to be done, a lot more needs to be done, but we are trying to do it. And as Mr. Gurria, the OECD General Director, mentioned it last Monday at the International Conference on Structural Reforms in Italy in Rome, the reform process is a never-ending process in itself. Along with improving the context when startups operate, betting on the human capital is really the key to success. I believe that we are facing a very hard challenge, and yet that we have the resources and skill to overcome it. Because, as Horowitz believes, and many others believe, we Italians have an enormous potential, and that comes from our history as a creative thinker. He refers, for example, to our design industry, but we can make many and many examples. But in general, to our attention for quality and details, not only in the designing phase, but also in the manufacturing phase of products. He believes, and that's encouraging, that these are the roots for the creation of an innovative system. They are already there. We need to work hard, and most of all, we need to find the courage to act. Fear for failure should not inhibit action. In fact, as once said Harry Emerson Fosdick, an American pastor who was born over a century ago, the one who said it cannot be done is generally interrupted by someone doing it. You are doing it, and thank you so much, because this country needs you to do and do it better, and we're doing whatever it takes to help you to do your job. Thank you so much.
Thanks to Michel Martone. Thanks, Michel.